What happens when a billionaire's mother goes undercover as a cleaner, just to find her son a real wife? She wasn't ready for ESI, a maid with a deadly secret, a hidden agenda, and ties to a political scandal that could destroy the entire Tando legacy. Lies, love, and legacy collide in Ghana's most unexpected love story. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video if you're ready for drama and twists. Agnes Tandoh was not your average Ghanaian mother. No. She was sharper than gossip, richer than sin, and more feared in East Legon society than the revenue authority. But her greatest achievement wasn't her wealth, her famous Tando jollof recipe, or even surviving 2 heart attacks. It was her son, Kojo Tandoh. At 34, Kojo was the CEO of Tando Group, one of Ghana's largest real estate empires. Handsome. Ruthless. Billionaire. But also, stubbornly single. And that was the problem. Every woman Kojo brought home was worse than the last. Slay queens who couldn't spell real estate. Influencers who walked into rooms like they owned them, and left with his Rolex. Political daughters who treated Kojo like a campaign. The final straw. A champagne-drenched humiliation. It was supposed to be a quiet dinner at Sky Bar. Kojo introduced his newest flame, Alma. Gorgeous. Half Lebanese. And full-time drama. By dessert, Alma was arguing with the waiter. By drinks, she insulted Agnes's shoes. And by the end of the night, she threw champagne directly in Agnes's face, yelling. "Next time, stay in your generation, mama. Your taste is expired." Kojo didn't even defend her. He just muttered, "Alma's a bit emotional," and called his driver. Agnes didn't sleep that night. She sat in her East Legon mansion sipping Shido and whiskey, whispering to herself. "I carried that boy for 9 months, just for him to bring me slay queens with fake degrees." That's when she decided. If Kojo wouldn't find a decent woman, she would find one for him. But not from afar. No matchmaking, no church aunties, no threats. She needed to get close, inside his life, inside his house, where the real women passed through. And so, Operation Auntie Ya was born. 3 days later, a new cleaner was hired at Kojo Tandoh's Trasako mansion. She wore cheap kaba and a scarf too tight on her forehead. Her nails were chipped, her back slightly hunched, and she mopped like a woman with a vendetta against dirt. No one recognized her. Not the chef, not the personal driver, not even the estate manager, because he'd already been paid a thick envelope of cash to stay quiet. Every Monday and Thursday, Agnes Tandoh became Auntie Ya. And she was brilliant at it. She scrubbed toilet bowls while listening to the stewardess flirt with Kojo on speakerphone. She polished the marble floor while watching housemaids sneak into guest rooms. She ironed bedsheets and took mental notes. Kojo barely noticed her. "Auntie Ya, don't clean my study while I'm on a call," he'd mutter. She'd bow slightly and say, "Yes, master." And then dust his laptop just enough to read what was on the screen. But for all her cleverness, she didn't expect her to show up. Amelia. Quiet. Calm. Always early. Never loud. She was the newest maid hired through an agency in Medina. At first, Agnes thought she was just another village girl, modest and hardworking. But then, things didn't add up. Amelia never gossiped. Never stole leftovers. And unlike the others, she always refused Kojo's random tips. She didn't smile too much, didn't laugh unless it was real, and didn't ask questions. One day, Agnes spotted her standing alone in the hallway at midnight, just staring at the family portrait of Kojo's late father. Her eyes weren't admiring. They were calculating. Like she knew something. Another day, she caught Amelia removing something from the trash in Kojo's study, a shredded envelope with foreign stamps. Agnes knew women. And Amelia? Amelia wasn't just a housemaid. Amelia was hiding something. But what? As Agnes mopped the hallway floor with exaggerated slowness, she whispered to herself. "Oh, you're not just here for salary, are you? You came with secrets. And I intend to clean them out." What started as a mission to find her son a wife was quickly turning into a war of secrets inside the mansion. And Agnes? She wasn't just undercover. She was about to get pulled deeper than she ever planned to go. Amelia Nyarko. To most people in the Trisaco mansion, she was just the quiet maid. But if anyone looked closer, really looked, they'd notice something strange. She never made phone calls. Never took selfies. Never posted on WhatsApp. She didn't ask questions. Didn't complain. Didn't even react when other staff whispered insults behind her back. That's because Amelia wasn't there to clean. She was there to hide. 6 months earlier, Amelia had been a secretary at a powerful MP's private office in Takoradi. A man known for his charm, political influence, and his brutal silence over scandals. Amelia was smart. Educated. Her diploma from UCC was real, but the job was fake. She was hired because she was pretty and obedient. That was the image. But she ruined everything, the night she walked in on the MP in his private villa, half naked with a girl who couldn't have been more than 16. When Amelia threatened to report him, he laughed. "Who's going to believe a cleaner over a politician?" he'd said. Then he added. "You know what we do to mouthy little girls in this game?" Within 48 hours, the tables turned. Photos of her surfaced online. Fake documents. Accusations of theft. Warrants. Death threats. She fled Takoradi and went underground. A friend of a friend got her a fake ID, a new name, and a job in Accra, as a housemaid in the Tando mansion. A perfect hiding place. No cameras. No questions. No connections. At least, that's what she thought. Meanwhile, Agnes Tandoh, still posing as Auntie Ya the cleaner, was watching. And Agnes didn't trust her. Not one bit. There was something too perfect about Amelia. She folded towels with military precision. She never stole snacks, never flirted with the chef, and never, ever, broke character. So Agnes started testing her. First, she planted temptation. 500 Ghanaian cedis left, accidentally, in a pocket of Kojo's trousers. Amelia washed, ironed, and returned it without blinking. Then Agnes overheard gossip about Kojo having millions in cash stashed in his study. Amelia didn't react. Finally, Agnes pretended to faint in the laundry room just to see if Amelia would panic. Amelia calmly fetched water, called the house nurse, and helped lift her to safety. No fear. No nervousness. No overreaction. Just calm. Too calm. Agnes started to think maybe she was wrong. But that night, something happened that changed everything. Kojo had returned late from a board meeting, angry, loud, and stressed. He stormed into the kitchen where Amelia was wiping down counters and muttered. "Why do I pay 5 chefs if no one in this house knows how to cook jollof properly?" Amelia looked up. Calm. Cold. Maybe if you didn't speak to people like you bought their souls, they'd actually cook with love. Silence. Even Kojo didn't expect that. But instead of firing her, he laughed. A dry, unexpected laugh. And walked away. From that night on, something shifted. He started noticing her. Her posture. Her confidence. The way she moved like someone trained in something more than laundry and mopping. He started asking small questions. "How long have you worked here? Where did you grow up? What books do you read?" Amelia always answered just enough, but never fully. But what neither Kojo nor Agnes knew, was what Amelia was doing after midnight. At 1:43 a.m., when the mansion was quiet, the security guards asleep, and the hallway cameras set to loop, Amelia would slip into Kojo's private study using a copy of the maid's keys. She'd stand in front of the locked drawer. Pull out a thin metal tool from inside her shoe. Pick the lock. Inside. Files. Documents. Financial reports. A file labeled, Confidential, East African Dealings. She wasn't reading for curiosity. She was searching. And last night, she found something. A letter. Handwritten. Foreign ink. And the signature at the bottom? It wasn't Kojo's. It was his late father's. And it mentioned the same MP who tried to destroy her life. Her eyes widened. Amelia hadn't just landed in the Tando mansion by accident. She'd been led here by a trail she thought was cold. Now it was heating up fast. And if anyone found out what she was really doing, it wouldn't just end her cover. It could end her life. Kojo Tandoh didn't fall in love. He signed contracts. He closed deals. He destroyed competitors with charm and silence. But for the first time in years, a woman had entered his space and left a mark. And that woman was the maid. Amelia. At first, he brushed it off. Maybe it was just curiosity. Maybe he was bored. But curiosity doesn't make a man linger in his own kitchen at 2 a.m. just to, accidentally, run into a maid wiping counters. And boredom doesn't make a billionaire steal glances through security footage just to see someone folding napkins. Something was changing. It happened one stormy Thursday evening. Rain crashed against the windows. A heavy thunderstorm knocked out power across the estate. The backup generator failed temporarily, a rare glitch. The mansion fell into total darkness. Kojo lit a few candles and wandered to the kitchen, searching for something, wine. Solace. Maybe just a reason not to think. And there she was. Amelia. Sitting quietly at the kitchen island, sipping warm tea. A single candle between them flickered against her skin like a spell. "You're not afraid of the dark?" he asked, pouring himself a drink. "Afraid of the dark," she smiled. "No. Darkness reveals more than light does." Kojo blinked. That wasn't a line from a housemaid. That was poetry. He leaned against the counter. "You always talk like you're hiding a secret." She looked up at him, calm. "Everyone's hiding something. Even you." Silence. The candle crackled. The tension thickened. And then, like it had been waiting to happen, he kissed her. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't messy. It was intentional. Controlled. And when it ended, Kojo simply said, "Come to dinner. Tomorrow night. Not as a maid. As my guest." Amelia didn't answer right away. She simply nodded, and walked away. But the kiss? It set the whole mansion on fire. By sunrise, the house was buzzing. Gossip moved faster than the harmattan wind. He kissed her in the kitchen. "She's not just a maid, she's a witch. I heard he's proposing next week." Jealousy flared. Some staff started avoiding her. Others whispered insults under their breath. And one cleaner, Nana Adwoa, boldly confronted Amelia in the hallway. "I don't know what juju you brought from the village, but trust me, it won't last." Within 2 hours, Nana Adwoa was fired. Just like that. No warning. The message was clear, Amelia was untouchable now. Agnes, still undercover as Auntie Ya, watched it all unfold from the shadows. She'd seen enough to know when a woman had her son wrapped around her fingers. But strangely, she didn't hate it. In fact, Agnes began to believe, maybe Amelia was the one. So she switched tactics. No more suspicion. It was time to prepare Amelia for something bigger. Behind closed pantry doors and folded laundry piles, she began to coach her. "When you speak to a powerful man, challenge him, but with softness. Don't wear bright colors. Wealthy men trust women in earth tones. Always let him speak first, then give a smarter response. Agnes wasn't just cleaning. She was grooming a daughter-in-law, her way. But the irony? She was coaching a woman who already had her own playbook. Because Amelia wasn't innocent. After the kiss, after the wine, after the candlelight, she'd returned to the study. Her hands no longer shook when picking the lock. She went straight to the back folder. One she hadn't dared open yet. It was sealed in red. Labeled, Personal, Offshore Settlements. Inside, she found something shocking. Bank transfers to a woman in Italy. Quarterly. Large amounts. Attached was a birth certificate. A child. Female. Father, Kojo Tandoh. Mother, name redacted. Amelia stared at the paper for minutes. Kojo had a child. A secret daughter. And he'd paid to keep it hidden, offshore. Buried. Even his mother didn't seem to know. Amelia closed the file. Her heart should have been racing. But it wasn't. She wasn't surprised. Just, reassured. Because now she had what she needed. A kiss gave her access. But leverage? That gave her control. And so, when Kojo sent her a dress the next evening, soft gold, silk, no tag, no note, Amelia wore it. Not for him. Not for love. But for the game she was now ready to play. What started as survival, was now strategy. And Kojo? He had no idea he had just seduced the one woman who could destroy everything. Kojo Tandoh had never known fear, not in business, not in power, not even when his father died suddenly and the vultures came for the empire. But now, for the first time, he was afraid. Because the woman he kissed, the woman he nearly brought to his bed, knew about his daughter. It started with small distance. He stopped calling. Cancelled dinner. Told the estate manager to give Amelia fewer shifts. Avoided her in the hallways like she carried a virus. He was trying to protect himself, and the truth he'd hidden for almost 5 years. But Amelia wasn't stupid. She saw the change. And one night, while Kojo was sipping whiskey alone in his office, she walked in uninvited. Candlelight flickered. Rain tapped the windows. She closed the door behind her, quietly. If you're pulling away because of the files, just say it. Kojo looked up, startled. He said nothing. You're afraid I'll use it against you. Still silence. She stepped closer, voice soft. But I'm not here to destroy you, Kojo. I'm here because secrets rot in silence. And I know what silence can do to a person. She didn't cry. Didn't beg. Just, stood there. And somehow, that shook Kojo more than any threat would have. You're not going to tell anyone, he finally whispered. No. But you should. One day. Kojo opened up that night. He told her everything. How the child came from a short affair during a business trip in Milan. How the mother had threatened to expose him unless he paid for their daughter's silence. How he didn't want to be like his father, a man who buried truths and died with enemies no one could count. Amelia sat in silence. Listening. Calculating. And when he finished, she simply said, "You're a better man than you think." That night, for the first time, they didn't kiss. They just held each other. And it scared Agnes more than anything. Because Agnes Tandoh, Auntie the fake cleaner, heard everything. She had been passing the study door, pretending to polish a vase, when she heard Kojo confessing. About the daughter. The Milan payments. The affair. Her heart dropped. How could he hide such a thing from her? And why did this strange maid know it all before she did? Her instinct screamed again. Amelia was too calm. Too calculated. Too convenient. Agnes couldn't sit back anymore. That night, she called in a favor. A private investigator. A retired BNI contact she'd once dated in the 80s. The kind of man who could get information on a ghost. Her name's Amelia Nyarko, she said over the phone. Dig until you find what her parents don't even know. 4 days later, the PI returned. His report was short. But deadly. Her real name is Abina Fojua Ansa. Born in Takoradi. The name, Amelia Nyarko, is a stolen identity from a dead cousin. She's wanted for questioning in a criminal cover-up involving MP Bernard Addy. She disappeared after exposing him, then faked her own death. Agnes blinked. Bernard Addy, she asked slowly. The PI nodded. Yes. The same Addy who clashed with your husband in Parliament, back in 2003. He was a known political enemy of the Tandohs. Suddenly, it all clicked. Agnes clutched her pearls. Her mind raced. This wasn't coincidence. This was infiltration. Was Amelia really in love with Kojo? Or was she playing the longest, coldest revenge game the family had ever seen? Agnes couldn't decide. Because as damning as the report was, Kojo was smiling again for the first time in years. She'd caught him humming in the hallway. He even wore cologne again. He was falling. Fast. That night, Agnes sat in her secret cleaner's room, staring at the PI report, torn between two roles. The mother who wanted to protect her son. And the woman who knew how to play a long game herself. If she exposed Amelia now, Kojo's heart might shatter. If she waited too long, their entire empire could be in danger. But Agnes didn't get this far in life by panicking. She folded the report neatly. Slid it into her bra. Then whispered to herself. If this girl is playing chess, then I'll be the queen on the board. Because one thing was clear. Amelia wasn't the only one hiding a secret. And Agnes Tandoh? She was just getting started. There's a different kind of silence that falls when trust is broken. It's not loud. It's cold. And in the Tando mansion that morning, it was ice. Kojo stood in his study, holding the private investigator's file Agnes had slipped under his door at 5 a.m. He didn't move for 15 minutes. Just stared at it. Read it twice. Then once more, slower. Real name, Abina Fojua Ansa. Former secretary to MP Bernard Addy. Faked her death. Wanted in connection to political whistleblowing scandal in Takoradi. Enemy to the Tando family legacy. Amelia. The woman who made him laugh. The woman who calmed his chaos. The woman he nearly loved. He confronted her that evening. No warning. No gentle tone. He walked straight into the kitchen and slammed the file on the table. What's your real name? Amelia froze. Kojo. Don't Kojo me. Answer me. The entire house went silent. Staff paused in the halls. Even the dogs didn't bark. I didn't come here to hurt you, Amelia said finally. But I needed answers. Your father. My father is dead. But his crimes are still alive. Kojo's voice dropped to a whisper, but his eyes flamed. You lied. You manipulated me. You used me. And you hid a daughter. Silence. Like a slap. For a moment, it looked like he'd forgive her. Like the fire would turn to smoke. But then, he saw her look down, not in fear, but in pity. You don't even know what kind of man your father was, she muttered. But I do. That was the final crack. Kojo turned to the estate manager and said coldly. Fire her. Tonight. And find out who the hell hired Auntie Ya. I want her gone too. Agnes, hidden behind a corner, gasped. She had told him everything, everything except the part where she was Auntie Ya. Now, her own son had unknowingly thrown her out of his life. By morning, Amelia was gone. No note. No number. No forwarding address. And Agnes, out of options, packed her cleaner's uniform into a black polythene bag, slipped out the back gate, and vanished. Then, chaos struck. 3 days later, at 7:32 a.m., Twitter went mad. Instagram even worse. WhatsApp groups across Accra lit up like wildfire. A video had surfaced. Kojo Tandoh. A private hotel room in Milan. A birth certificate. A close-up of his daughter's face. Blurred, but unmistakably real. The caption: Billionaire hides daughter while flaunting fake relationships, see what Ghana's elite don't want you to know. Within hours. 2 board members humiliated. 3 investors pulled funding. The stock price dipped. And news outlets were camped outside the Tando headquarters like vultures on a fresh carcass. Everyone blamed Amelia. Even Kojo. But they were wrong. The leak didn't come from her. It came from Agnes's own private investigator, the man she once trusted. He had sold the information to a popular gossip blogger in exchange for 80,000 Ghanaian cedis. Easy money. He thought it would blow over. But Kojo? He was ruined. His name. His reputation. And worst of all, his sense of control. Late that night, Kojo returned to the mansion. Alone. Defeated. Shaken. He entered his room, and on his bed was a single white envelope. No name. No stamp. Just, waiting. Inside was a handwritten letter. The writing familiar. Beautiful. And painful. You don't know who I am. But I've always known who you were. Your father once ruined my family. Stole land from my grandfather. Had my father arrested on fake charges. My mother died in the process. I came here for justice. Not revenge. I wanted to know if the sins of the father were inside the son. They weren't. At least not all. I didn't mean to love you. But I did. The letter ended there. No phone number. No signature. Just heartbreak. Kojo sat in silence. The empire his father built was burning. His mother was missing. And the only woman he'd ever truly trusted had been a ghost with a bleeding past. But something was still wrong. Because as he read the letter again, one detail in the file kept ringing in his head. MP Bernard Addy, still alive, still powerful, still covering secrets. And Kojo had seen that name, before. In his father's will. Something deeper was buried. Something darker. And Kojo wasn't done. Kojo didn't sleep. Didn't eat. Didn't speak to anyone. For 5 days, he did nothing but chase shadows. The only thing keeping him alive was the letter, and the realization that Amelia never meant to destroy him. She was running from more than just her past. She was running from his father's sins. He finally found her in Cape Coast, working at a modest roadside bookstore owned by an elderly aunt who barely spoke English. She wore no makeup. No jewelry. Just a worn t-shirt and jeans, barefoot, dust on her ankles. But when she saw him, Kojo, disheveled in a linen shirt, eyes dark from sleepless nights, she didn't run. She simply whispered. Took you long enough. They sat on the beach until dusk. No one spoke for a while. Then Amelia began to unravel the past, like an old wound ripped open one final time. It wasn't just land, Kojo. Your father didn't just buy it. He stole it. My grandfather owned 17 acres in Elmina. A sacred family land. Your father came under a fake name, made him sign a rigged contract. The resort was built. We lost everything. My father went mad from the shame. The local chief disowned him. He drank palm wine and jumped off a Domi bridge. I was 13. She stared out at the sea. Kojo had no words. Only grief. I swore I'd destroy the Tando name. I trained for it. I learned how to hack. How to investigate. How to hide. But then. I met you. And you weren't like him. Her voice broke. I didn't want to fall for you. But I did. Kojo didn't ask for forgiveness. He just held her hand. I can't change what he did. But I can finish what you started. Back in Accra, Agnes was already plotting. She'd gone to lay low in Aburi, but the silence was too loud. She knew she couldn't hide forever. Because Agnes had her own secret. The blackmail wasn't just about Kojo's daughter. It went deeper, to Kojo Tandoh as mistress, a former journalist who had been paid for her silence for 15 years. She had audio tapes of Kojo admitting land fraud, political bribery, and even hinting at the suspicious death of his former partner. The woman had started threatening Agnes for more money after Kojo died. So Agnes created the disguise, Auntie Ya, to gain freedom, anonymity, and time to build a counterattack. Now, it was time to end it. Kojo returned from Cape Coast with Amelia. Together with Agnes, they met with a young, fearless investigative journalist, Salorm Doku, famous for exposing MPs and religious scammers. They gave him everything. The mistress's blackmail tapes. The signed land theft documents. Evidence of the PI's leak. The full truth about Amelia's identity. Salorm broke the story on Joy News. And within hours, the narrative flipped. The truth behind the billions, the women who exposed a dynasty. Public sympathy returned. Kojo's reputation rebounded, not as the arrogant billionaire, but as the man who chose truth over power. Amelia's bravery was celebrated. And Agnes? Agnes became a national meme. Her cleaner disguise went viral on TikTok. A remix of her sweeping floors played on every radio station. Auntie Ya for Premiliat in 2028 trended for 3 days straight. A month later, Kojo appeared on Good Morning Ghana, dressed in navy Kent, smiling for the first time on camera. Before we wrap, the host said, "Anything else you'd like to say?" Kojo turned to the audience, took a deep breath, and said, "Yes. I have someone, to ask." Amelia walked out from backstage, dressed in yellow, glowing like a sunrise. And in front of the entire country, Kojo knelt and asked. Not as Kojo the billionaire. Not as the son of a corrupt man. But as a man who's trying to be better. Will you marry me? Gasps. Applause. Screaming. Amelia, tears in her eyes, whispered. Yes. A few weeks later, Agnes stood at the wedding in Kumasi, no cleaner uniform, no lies, no secrets. She wore royal purple. And when a guest asked how she felt, she laughed. I swept my way into the truth. Now my daughter-in-law sweeps hearts. Balance. And that's how a billionaire's mother, a runaway maid, and a scandal became Ghana's most unexpected love story. From revenge. To redemption. From mop. To marriage.